For our reflex demonstration, you're going to need to use adhesive electrodes instead of the normal popsicle stick electrodes. And it works for most people best on rectus femoris. So if you have your subject extend their knee, you see we have two big muscles on either side of the leg, and then rectus femoris is the one in the middle. You want to place your electrodes fairly high up on the muscle belly, and you want to check that you're getting good EMG signal when your subject extends their leg. So watch as he extends and relaxes. We're getting good signal, so we're going to call that good. You also want them to be sitting on something so their feet don't touch the ground. And then our spiker box setup is the normal setup with the leads going into the spiker box and then onto some sort of viewing device so you can see the signal. And then you will also need a reflex hammer to be able to elicit the reflex. And again, if you're having trouble, make sure your subject is grounded while we're using a tinfoil bracelet clipped to our ground lead, and that works well for us. The next important thing to know is where to tap on their leg to get the best reflex. So we're aiming for the patellar tendon just below the kneecap where the tendon from our quads inserts onto our leg. And when you tap that tendon, we should get a kick out, just like we're seeing here. So then when we look, you can see, that was a good one. The EMG is a fairly quick spike of the reflex finishing with extension of the knee, followed by some smaller EMG of the braking force stopping the kick out. And you can maybe tell that it changes in amplitude by how hard the hammer strike was. And we'll go through how to actually measure that amplitude next. To measure the amplitude of your reflex, you want to use the record feature on the Backyard Brains app. So if you push the record button in the top right corner, we'll then record a couple of reflexes. Different amplitudes. Great. Now we're going to look at the recording we just made so we can measure the amplitude of those reflexes. So we're going to hit recordings. Make sure this is the one we want by going down to the bottom or the most recent one. And then we'll push play. And we can zoom out a little bit so that we know we're looking at what we want. So there's our first one, and it's really big, and shortly after that we had a smaller one. So we'll start by zooming in on the first one by spreading your fingers apart. So we get it to where we want it on the screen. Hold our finger so the blue line shows up, and then drag across the EMG that we want to measure. And we can see that the root mean square, or the average amplitude of that reflex, was 0.006 millivolts. Now we're going to measure the amplitude of the smaller reflex right here. So again, we're going to zoom in until we're close enough that we can get a good starting and stopping point. Touch the screen. Oops. And we can see that the amplitude of this one, or the root mean square of it, was much smaller at 0.003 millivolts, which is what we were expecting to find.